Good afternoon and welcome to the WAVY Digital Desk. I'm your host, Sarah Good. Today we're going to be speaking about a mental health event that's taking place this Thursday in Norfolk, Surviving Through Mental Health. Today we're going to be speaking about what the event is, the importance of it, and July is Minority Mental Health Awareness Month. So we're also going to dive into why that is so important to highlight this month and around the year. If you're in Norfolk, if you're trying to find something to do this weekend, we're going to find out more about how you can get involved with your community. And they say it's about healing, connecting and finding that support. So I'm going to bring on our guests now and introduce them. Good afternoon. Thank you both so much for coming on today.
Thank
Good
you.
afternoon.
I want to first, go through and introduce both of you, and then just going to have some B-roll playing for a minute, just showing you the city of Norfolk, what we're talking about today. So first, Danica Royster, Norfolk City Council Super Ward 7 is joining us, and she is going to speak about, the city's involvement and the sort of goals of this month, if you will. And then Shanice Hernandez with Project Norfolk ORF. She's the co-founder and executive director. So, we're so thankful to have you both on today to talk about and highlight this event that's coming up on Thursday. First, why this month is so important for Minority Mental Health Awareness Month. Danica, do you want to take, why is this so important for the city of Norfolk to get involved, to be a part of this, and to highlight this month?
Yes, it's important to us because, mental health matters, mental health care access matters. And what we wanted to be able to provide was a forum, a safe space, if you will, for persons from the community to come in and not only learn about mental health, but also how can we support not only our family members, but even our youth. As we're having conversations surrounding mental health, there's lots of data out there and statistics that are supporting our efforts from the position of there's so many people who are seeking resources. There are parents and guardians who are seeking resources. And also, we're still trying to fight the taboo as relates to mental health and how important it is and having access to it is within our communities. So, a couple months ago, I had the opportunity to sit down with Shanice along with the Norfolk Community Service Board and said, hey, let's do something. Let's put the resources, let's get some expert, subject matter expert panelists involved, as well as let's reach out with Project Or, who is one of our PIC grant recipients for the work that they're doing within the community as relates to not only raising awareness, but advocating for access for families within the city of Norfolk as well.
And I think, just the fact of, pre-planning this and getting this together, the panelists, the experts, what's going to be at the event, I think speaks for itself, and the level of seriousness, obviously, that you all are taking on this topic and the focus. I mean, I know we'll get into some of the details later, but you obviously have panelists from, expert organizations and places around our city, which I know we'll dive into. But Shanice, first, can you tell us about Project ORF and just your connection to the city and this event?
Yes. So Project ORF, we're a newly found nonprofit here in the city of Norfolk. We focus on providing free, holistic mental health education and resources and supports to our target population, which is young adults and youth. The involvement with the city, this started back a couple of years ago when I met Danica, Miss Danica Royster. I actually had a different business model. It was a for-profit business model, and I just kind of got led to this nonprofit world. I stayed in touch with her throughout those 2 years, and we just built a relationship. I always checked in and just let her know, like, I'm working on something. I'm going to come to you when it's ready. Like she said, we got together at the top of the year, and she really spearheaded this event. I formed a really good connection with the city of Norfolk through the PIC program as well as the CSB. So, yeah.
That's great. And for you, I mean, was there a certain need in the community that you saw that you wanted to help fill? I mean, what was sort of the start for you to, connect with the city of Norfolk on this topic?
Um, Honestly, it would be my life. I'm from the city of Norfolk, born and raised. I would identify myself as one of those at-risk youth that struggled with mental health. I didn't really realize that I was struggling with it until I became an adult, and then life got really, really hard. I'm actually a clinical social worker, so growing up in this city and then serving this city, I really got two very special perspectives of being in this city. So that's really just what grew my heart for this city, and want to just to help the people that I grew up with, to help the people that are in my community.
And I guess to both of you, Shawnee's, just off of your comment, growing up here, we can start with you. Did you feel like there was resources available and people might not have known what those were? Did you feel like there was a disconnect maybe between what the city could offer you all when you were growing up?
No, not necessarily. My mom always had me in like summer programs and summer camps. I always played sports. I played soccer majority of my youth, up until college. The resources have always been there. I think where we are now in time with the digital age, um, they just don't know how to connect. And so I do think that there needs to be like some revamping of how we get connected, the community to the resources. But the city has a lot of resources out there.
And, Danica, I know that between just summer programs in general for kids, whether that's to have fun, whether that's just to give them a place to go in the summer, there's so much going around in the city. But why this event in particular is something that you all want to focus on, that mental health piece, giving people this opportunity, this event?
For me, I feel like, especially post pandemic, if you will, the spotlight has been on mental health. We're having more conversations about it. We're having more conversations of, post the pandemic, what are some of the impacts that we're seeing people had as it relates to isolation? Some of the rates and statistics, from everything from, youth suicide to even getting into domestic violence situations, shows that the pandemic really exacerbated a lot of those things. And particularly when we're just talking about trauma, there's a lot of trauma that's happening across the nation, and these are impacting our kids who are going to school every day and having to, exist in environments where they're expected to perform, but maybe the resources aren't there to support them. The same thing as it relates to parents, guardians, and other adults. For me, when I was growing up, as relates to mental health, there were outlets, there were things that at the time, the knowledge about, oh, okay, this is what this is. You're not just having a bad day, it's called depression. Or you're not just nervous, it's called anxiety. And I think with us, this is going to be an opportunity for us to now link behavior and language, and provide opportunities for people to not only recognize, okay, maybe there is something else going on, and how can I better support myself, my family, and my community. Personally, to Shawnee's point, this means a lot to me because not only am I an advocate, but I am also someone who lives life or survives life daily with anxiety. I've had my bouts with depression along with attention deficit disorder. And what I also want to show the community is that your diagnosis doesn't determine your destiny or determine where and how you can show up in the world. What's most important is that you have the tools and you have the resources. And that's what this event is about, putting those together, bringing the people from the community to meet our panelists, our subject matter experts, as well as our vendors from the likes of CHKD to Centera, so we're creating like this full holistic approach of support. So that's what the event means to me.
And at least, with both of you giving your answers just there, I think it's great to see that people have struggled with this and, that are now leaders in the community, but also are giving back, to something that they maybe didn't see, or don't want to see impact youth the same way maybe now. I mean, for you all to have that personal connection, how important do you think that is for youth to see that, hey, look where I've, grown, look where I am now?
I think it's necessary. There's a saying: if you see it, you can believe it, and you can believe that you can achieve it. So I think, with our platforms, we have a responsibility, not only with our transparency, but with our advocacy, to put that in action. And not just to use to just inspire them, but to also inspire communities. And my hope is that this is just a kickoff to a much larger conversation that we have. And it's something that continues to happen, and relationships are formed. And ultimately, one of the biggest things is a lot of these agencies also get the exposure that they need so that they can continue to offer support to some of our most at risk communities as well.
And one of those being, the Norfolk Community Services Board, and there are community services boards across Hampton Roads, but, the services they offer, the services they're able to offer people that might not have, resources, that's huge. Can you just tell me a little bit about, the service board?
Yes. So the Norfolk Community Service Board, they actually have an arm of which they do prevention services, and that encompasses education, outreach, and also training. So that's something that we're going to have highlighted at the event as well. They'll also have a resource table to be able to connect with individuals and families. And one of the biggest resources with it being City of Norfolk is there's actually a lot of things, as Shanice had mentioned, that are right at the community's disposal. It's just about us getting it out to them. Another big thing that is going to be happening at the event is I'm actually going to have a conversation with Chief Talbot of the Norfolk Police Department to discuss, 911 versus 988, and how can we educate community members as it relates to when should I maybe call the 988 mental health crisis hotline versus, reaching out to Norfolk Police Department, which is really important conversations, as well as how does mental health even show up in policing and in communities. So this is going to be, like I said, a holistic conversation where we're going to try to touch on as much as we can right between the hours of 5 and 9. But this is the first, but I'm hoping that it won't be the last.
Yeah, I mean, you're really covering every sort of sector here. And I know that, calling 988, and I think that has been, growing at least in terms of its success, and talking to people and, finding resources where you might not call the police, but call 988, call maybe resource officers that understand how to de-escalate situations. I feel like those are such important lessons, to learn. I mean, Shanice, on your end, in planning this and finding all these people in all these different places, in Norfolk, how important was that to cover that scope?
I think it was very important. Mental health is so widespread and it shows up in many different ways. So to be able to have different agencies to pinpoint different parts of mental health, whether it's just regular therapy and support or addiction, um, it was very important to hit every scope of it as well as the holistic aspect of it. There's a lot of stigma and a lot of barriers that need to be broken within this community. And so sometimes mental health is scary to talk about. And this community does not always trust the professionals. So to be able to have other nonprofits that focus on the topic of mental health, it serves as like a segue to get them to where they need to be.
Absolutely. And let's get into some of the panels. So, WAVY's Kiana Patterson is going to be moderating this panel, which we're so excited about, and to see her, speaking with these experts up there. You also, Shanice, spoke with her, and I want to just say, if you're watching on, YouTube or Facebook, wavy.com right now, you can see the conversation and story with Kiana. That was just about a week or two ago, previewing the event. So if you didn't catch that, hopefully you'll catch this and you can go back to her story that she did with you. But Kiana's gonna be moderating, and just tell me, I can read them off just to start. But we have Dr. Crystal Vaughn, Cameron Blue, Miss Kim Ambrose, Dr. Christy Norwood, Dr. Tanya Shell. I know there's more to come, and but do you want to just tell me a bit about some of these experts you guys mentioned? But CHKD, Sentara, Hampton University, Norfolk State University. I mean, just what a widespread panel.
Yes, going through the panel members, it was honestly, it was fun getting to know each and every one of them individually. I wanted to be very intentional about how we position these questions with our panelists. Dr. Crystal Vaughn, she's amazing. She focuses on trauma specifically and how it shows up in our community. Cameron Blue is awesome. He's done a lot of work in the community as well with CHKD and the Safety Futures program. Dr. Christy Norwood, she's amazing as well. I spoke with her briefly on what she's doing over at Hampton University, and she has a lot of good things going over there as well. So.
No, it's great. And I think, just to reiterate, you all said they're, mental health and wellness experts and survivors. And I think, from speaking to you both, even the beginning of this conversation about why this is so important in your own, either battle or your own experience with, mental health. To see people up there that have also gone through this, I think gives such a deeper meaning to the conversations that will be had.
Absolutely. I have to agree 100% with that. What we said we wanted to do is really just bring this authentic experience, open the floor up for vulnerable conversation. Often within community, there can even be a taboo associated with mental health. And so we're not just, surviving, but we also want to break the stigma and let people know that it's okay to not be okay. And here's some resources to help you with that. Because ultimately, what we need to do is not just acknowledge it, not just advocate, but put all of that into action. And what type of plan do we actually have for community members who are experiencing this mental health? I would say it's an epidemic itself. Ultimately, as I mentioned, moving through the pandemic, it highlighted a lot of things and it pulled the sheets and the covers off of a lot of concerns. And so, what we wanted to do is not just create a space where we're talking about it, but we're actually connecting community to resource to help support them as they're also surviving through it as well.
Absolutely. And completely that it is, it is this public health issue. And it's sort of like how to tackle it in all of these different communities and neighborhoods isn't going to look the same. So, how do we reach those people? How do we connect with them? I mean, Shanice, you said, you wanted to be intentional about what the panel is going to talk about, the questions. I mean, are there any questions or, general topics that you definitely are going to, have involved in the panel? I mean, I know that Kiana's not going to give away her secrets about what she's going to ask, but, is there anything specifically that you all really wanted to make sure the panelists got through?
Yes. I think emotional regulation is definitely one of the big things that we need to hit on. It's how us from the community, how we show up. Sometimes we're not always understood and how we express our emotions. Complex trauma is another big thing that I do want to be communicated, just so that people start to understand what this is and that there's different forms of PTSD, and sometimes that PTSD comes from your childhood.
Absolutely. And I think, those are some in particular that I think, people can either take away from and then maybe even lead to, self-discovery, their own therapy journey or their own conversations to have with, loved ones or friends. I guess the benefit, and tell me, who do you want to see at this event? Because they could bring that back to their own home, their own school, their own community if they don't attend.
Yes. We definitely would love to see the youth there just so that they can get this information firsthand. People from the community, but we also want people outside of our community to be there so that they're educated on how mental health shows up within our community. This is going to be a group, collaborative effort on healing these communities. So it's going to take more than just us from the inside, but others from the outside as well.
So if people are in different cities, are they welcome to attend? They're welcome to show up?
Absolutely.
Of course. Come on to Norfolk. Councilwoman Royster welcomes you.
You heard it here first. And I just think welcoming, we know how connected these 7 cities are. We know how connected this community is, whether through, sports, whether through work, whatever it might be. And so to have that connection and to have that sort of mental health education, if you will, sort of stem across, I feel like can only be more valuable to the city of Norfolk.
I agree 100%. And ultimately, not just the city of Norfolk, but Hampton Roads, the Commonwealth, and our entire country. So this is a serious topic, but this is something we're willing to take on and say, let's have the discussion. Let's bring the people to the table. So as you mentioned, we're extending the invitation to youth, to community, also churches, community stakeholders, because this is something that's important. And, our advocacy, as Shanice mentioned, is important, but it's always important as people are getting educated that they can also speak out, but also push for things, whether it's more programming within their own city, maybe reaching out and partnering with different nonprofits, and even to some of our elected officials who will be present as well, so we can share with them some of the concerns that constituents have and see what can be done on not only the local level, perhaps even the state and nationally as well.
And to see it from maybe the medical perspective, the leadership perspective, resources, to have people understand that their leaders are taking this seriously, I think could only aid to maybe them feeling more supported in their own day.
I agree.
Absolutely. I would say that's the goal.
And, I know that there's some fun things that you all mentioned as well, to get people excited and to be there. But, just to list a few, and just to reiterate, I think, Danica, you mentioned a few, but prizes, raffles, refreshments, music, and more. So you're really trying to get people engaged, whatever that might be, just to get them into the conversation, into that Addicts Theater room.
Yes, absolutely. And it was an opportunity for us to also highlight some local persons as well who are going to be providing the refreshments, local SWAM businesses. Also, opportunity to expose our community to some resources like Chinese mentioned might not be available. Do want to thank a lot of the community partners who made this possible, whether it was, IKEA who sponsored the furniture setup, the layout for the venue, our People's Local Seafood, who's going to be providing the food for it, as well as, Team Norfolk, which really came together to make this happen. Everyone from the Norfolk Community Service Board to the Norfolk Health Department to even, the administration. So this has definitely been an all hands on deck Team Norfolk effort. And it also just shows what's possible when we collaborate and come together for the good of the community, not only as it relates to what's going to happen on Thursday, but to let people know, as you mentioned earlier, Laura, that this is something that we all are invested in. And mental health awareness, it not just is highlighted in May or minority mental health awareness in the month of July, but it's something that people deal with year round. And we need to make sure that we have resources to also support them year round as well.
Absolutely. And for you, Shanice, who's, founded this organization, for you, how important is it for people to understand your resources, your vision, in not just obviously on Thursday, but getting involved with it, year round?
Well, we just started, so we're hoping to spearhead our groups and our circles in 2025. I think it's very important because our approach is definitely a holistic approach. We're going to leave the clinical stuff to the clinical professionals, but we just want to really be able to give these people a space to have the hard conversations about life, so that way, like I said, that we can get them to the needed resources that they need to be in.
And sometimes that natural space, that holistic space with your friends or with family or with community members, that could be maybe where a breakthrough, might start. Is that okay?
It definitely starts there. Even like in my friend group, sometimes, like Councilwoman Royce just said, after COVID, mental health became a topic of discussion. And so from there, in my friend group, several of us have been in therapy since then. So it's definitely needed. And it serves, there's a comfortability to being able to speak to someone that looks like you, that also has been experiencing the same type of traumas or experiences that you've experienced.
Absolutely, and that's a safe space too, and that's such an open space. And I want to highlight too, you all talked about all the resources available. I'll make sure that those are available for people, dialing into this today and also checking out the article later, information about the 988 number and all of those resources. Because if, just if one conversation sparks something for someone, as you both said, there are resources available in Norfolk for you, available around Hampton Roads rather, that can help you, that can be there. And so I'm hoping that conversation on Thursday really leads to people feeling that connected and healing and supportive, mission that you all are trying to achieve here.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Is there anything else, whether it's about Thursday or just this Minority Mental Health Awareness Month piece that you all want to speak to before we log off today?
The only parting words I have is looking forward for everyone to be able to attend. And for those who aren't, please definitely lock into the resources and the information that's going to be shared on the site. And all I want to say is all are welcome, and it's okay to not be okay. But what's most important, that you're being good to you, you're worthy of wellness, and organizations like Project ORF and the Norfolk Community Service Board, CHKD, Centera, the list goes on and on. There are so many people who are dedicated to this effort, not only through their advocacy, but through their action. And we're here to support you all through your journey. And I'm hoping that everyone can come out and not only have a good time, but walk away feeling empowered, and feeling like they're not just surviving, but they're thriving through their mental health.
Absolutely. I sign off on everything that she said. The only thing that I will add is follow us on Instagram at Project ORF_, and just stay tuned to what we have coming up.
Absolutely. Well, thank you both so much for all your time this afternoon. And for anyone watching, know about these, wonderful women getting up there, motivating and sort of leading the community on this mission of mental health. You can go on Thursday. Registration isn't required, but is encouraged. So be sure to register online if you can attend and find out more resources. And be sure to see Kiana Patterson on Thursday with the great panel they have lined up. But thank you both for joining again. Thank you to everyone watching. Head over to WAVY.com for more information and resources.
Thank you.
Thank you.